Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online character build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're going to be taking a look at the Druid character. Now this character is a hybrid type healer character, and it uses two really interesting sets that gives it a unique play style. I changed it up from its old way to something a little bit more versatile, so it can focus on doing a little bit of everything. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the build. So as you guys can see, this is the Druid character. It is a Wood Elf Warden. You can be any race with this. You cannot be any class. Unfortunately, the Warden is the only class that can play this way. But it is a lot of fun to play this build. This is one of my favorite characters I have on the live servers. I do not have it set up this way. I will be changing my main to, or my live character to this, because I really enjoy this playstyle. As you can see though, we have 64 points in the stamina. This is so we can mainly focus on the stamina side of our character. We do have 20k magicka, 19k health, 30k stamina. Our magicka recovery is coming in at 1078. Our stamina recovery is coming in at 1046. And we do have a weapon damage of 2462 with a 31% weapon critical. Our spell damage is 1910 with a 22% spell critical. And we have a 13k spell resist with a 13k physical resist. Now we're going to go ahead and down here. We are using the Lever Mundus Stone right now because I am set for being more damage dealing orientated. And I do have tri-stat food on. So, alright. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our food and potions and how we use those. So when I play healer, or I'm playing this character their normal way, I do use tri-stat food. If I'm focusing on being a damage dealer, I will use Dubious Cameron Throne. This is a food that gives you stamina recovery, max health, and max stamina. It does drop your max resource pools, but that's okay because you get a much higher stamina recovery, and your spell and weapon, or your weapon damage and weapon crits, still pretty much stay the same. When I do play damage dealer, I do use the Lever Mundus Stone. And then when I'm playing a healer type, what I'll usually do is I will switch to the Atronach Mundus Stone, and what this does is it increases your mag recovery. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of our stuff here. And then when I'm potion-wise, also depends on what role I'm playing. If I'm focused on being everything all at once, I use tripods. If I'm focused on being stamina damage dealer, this. If I'm focused on being a healer, I use this. So I use stamina power pots for stamina based, spell power pots for magicka based, and even when I'm magicka based, like if I'm using the Dubious or the Witch Mother's Potent Brew, you're gonna see my stamina drops to 25, my health drops to 18, my magicka drops to 18, but my mag recovery goes up a lot. And I only do this if I need to, and I will sometimes even respec my character and move my attributes over to magicka. But most of the time I don't have to do that because the way this character is set up, I can play with just the tri-stat food, and I can just swap from the different potions. I can use the spell power pots for when I need to play more magicka based, when I need to play more stamina based, or whatever. I can just do that instead. So that's with the tri-power pots, so or the tripods. Alright, so that's what my character is like. Now let's go ahead and move on and talk about the sets that we run. For our monster set, we do run a more of a healer support set, and that is the Chokethorn's Visage. Now, as you can see, this adds a little bit of mag recovery, and then the two-piece, when you heal a friendly, or use a heal ability, you have a 15% chance to summon a Strangler sapling that heals you or an ally for 21,520 health over 4 seconds. This effect can happen every 10 seconds. This thing's pretty much, if you're playing this character normally, it's just out all the time, whenever it's off cooldown. The next set we're using is another set, and this the next two sets I'm going to tell you now drop in Vardenfell. And I put them in combination because I didn't realize how effective they really were until I tried it. So the first set we have here is the Defiler Set. Now, I know, really unusual. because the 2-piece adds weapon damage, the 3-piece adds weapon critical, the 4-piece adds weapon critical, and then when you deal critical damage, you have an 8% chance to summon a hunger that spews poison to all enemies in front of it, dealing 7,740 poison to all enemies in front of it, dealing that much poison damage and stunning them. Stunning any enemy hit for 5 seconds. The effect can occur once every 5 seconds. When you're playing stamina-based damage, that's all it does. This thing's pretty much non-stop, just like the Chokethorn. Now, moving on, the next set we're using is another set, again, that drops in Vardenfell or Morrowind chapter, and that is War Maidens. War Maidens is actually a surprisingly good set for a character like this, because it does give you that spell critical, it gives you that max magic, it gives you the spell damage on the 2, 3, and 4-piece. The 5-piece, though, adds 400 spell damage to your magic damage abilities. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask me, well, why is that important? Because, see, when I use something like Deep Fissure, and I use the Fetcher Infection, this is how I play my character as a damage dealer. And I do adjust my back bar. But when I'm playing damage dealer, this is the abilities I use. Because I have such a high magic recovery, and my spell damage isn't that bad, that I can actually take advantage of these abilities for my character in their design. And then over here, I swap some of this stuff around. Mainly I drop these 2 abilities and put this back here. I also changed this out to more of a damage optional ability, like I might use Northern Storm, or I might even go with the Mages Guild Ice Comet. And if I do that, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put Inner Light on both bars, just so I have the extra max magic. And that's just one option I go with. Another thing is that I might use synergies like Mystic Orb. This thing does magic damage, just so I can bring synergy to the group. And with this setup, what I'll do is I'll do something like this for when I'm playing damage dealer, just so you guys can see this and everything. And it works out really well with this setup, because I can take advantage of, like I said, all those different things. Now, I will sometimes use Rearming Trap because it does add to my DPS. Other times I might go into the Psijic Order and grab Race Against Time, because it's going to give me the same thing as Minor Force, and it does last 12 seconds. The other thing that's nice about this is it also gives me that increased movement speed. So when I use it, I can move around the field of combat a little better and throw orbs better for my allies. And then I can also drop fissures better. So it just depends on how I choose to play and what way I choose to play them. So I really like using these 2 sets in combination with each other, because they work out so well. Alright. So, really good combination here. Now, on to the traits and the enchants. The traits that we use for this, on the head, we use Invigorating. This helps us improve our recovery rates. We use Invigorating on the chest and the legs. Again, all this is to improve our recovery rates in Magicka, stamina, and such, so we can have really good recoveries. Now, moving on to the enchants, we do use 3 tri-stats in here. This it gives us that ability to hybridize if we need to adjust stats in the different areas. Like if I want to make this character more tanky, I can take all my attributes out of stamina and dump it all into health. If I want to make it more healer-based or Magicka-based, I can take everything out of there and put it all in this max Magicka. It really depends on how I choose to play. Then moving on to the smaller pieces, we are using Divines, and we are using a mix of enchants on the smaller pieces. So we are using 2 Magicka, 1 on the shoulder, 1 on the belt. And as you can see, the helm and shoulders are heavy and light. The body is all medium. So this way we can use a 5 medium setup. But the reason I do the 2 Magicka here is to expand my Magicka pool. The reason I do 2 stamina here is to expand my stamina pool. See, this way I have a 30k stamina with a 20k Magicka most of the time. So that way I'm more well-rounded. So if I do need to put into other things, I can. But my stamina will never drop below 25k. So, Or it will, but only when I swap my attribute points. Alright, now moving on to the jewelry. On the jewelry we have 2 trirunes. Again, this is to give us that ability to hybridize the character and do that hybrid play. As you can see, we have 1 weapon damage and 1 spell damage. With this set, we get a thing of weapon damage already, and this adds to our weapon damage also. So that trirune, or not the trirune, the weapon damage enchant, and this set gives us extra weapon damage. And then this set with the spell damage gives us extra spell damage. So our magic damage is going to be a little bit more effective, even with 20k max magicka. Here we have an infused enchant with a magic recovery. This is so we can get that higher magic recovery pool. We are a wood elf, so we get a high stamina recovery already. Now moving on to the weapons, we are using an infused main hand with a frost damage enchant. The reason I like using frost damage is if it applies chilled, it slows the enemy. And it also takes damage. So I like using this here. On the offhand, we do use a Nirnhone with an absorbed stamina enchant. This is just so we can help sustain ourselves a little bit better in rotations. And then on the back bar, we are using an infused bow with a weapon damage enchant. Now, I don't use this weapon setup all the time. I do carry other weapons with me, and I'm going to go over those real quick. So I do carry a sword and shield for when I needed to tank. I also carry an ice staff for when I need to tank. And then when I play more healer, I stick with the dual wield on the front bar and run a resto staff on the back bar. The ice staff has an infused crusher enchant. The sword here for the tanking is decisive with a magic damage absorb enchant. And then a War Maiden's shield sturdy with a Tristat enchant in it. And then onto the resto staff, we are using a powered staff with a weakening enchant. And then the Ice Maiden's staff, again, infused crusher. So, and it really just depends on how you want to play this. I even sometimes will use the ice staff with the restoration staff. It just depends. So, but that is all the gear, the food, the traits, Mundus Stone that we run, and some of the Mundus Stones we might swap to. Most of the time I just stay with the Lover because it just helps me improve my damage with both magicka and stamina, since I'm more of a hybrid type character. Alright, moving on now to the skills, and I'm going to be very clear on this. You can use whatever skills you want to use from your class in any kind of combination. So if you wanted to, you could take all the magicka skills for this if you wanted to, but I would suggest taking a few stamina based skills. This way you can take advantage of both magicka and stamina. The reason I take more magicka is because the way the character plays, like the 2 sets and how they basically kind of play off of each other. Because you have the one set that's stamina based, and it allows you to do more stamina based capability. And then you have the one magicka based one that just basically boosts a lot of your spell damage and a little bit of your spell crit, so you can take advantage of those higher spell of that chance of spell critting with these things. And when they do crit, they hit pretty hard. So, all right. So as I said, guys, I'm going to leave this setup right here, and I'm going to take this into a dungeon here in a minute. But I'm just going to leave this on the back bar, the healing thing, because I might need it. And I'm probably going to change out the infecture flies also for the resolving vigor. So, just so I have a little bit more survivability for when I'm in the dungeon and everything like that. But let me go ahead and go over the skills now. For the class skills, I just say this because it's really important. At least unlock all your passive abilities and the skills that you want to use for your class based on your own choices. I like to unlock everything because I play everything in the game. You know, I play through all the content with my characters. It doesn't matter. I get all the sky shards so I can have all the skills available. Moving on to weapons, because we use a one-handed sword and shield, I do unlock those skills. Primarily I use dual wield. I unlock those skills and their passives. And bow, I also those skills and their passives. Now when it comes to restoration staff and destruction staff, if I need to use those, I will unlock those. Like I said, I didn't even unlock the destruction staff because I don't really need it. I only need it if I'm really tanking hardcore. And even then, I don't need it, because this character's just too good without it. Restoration Staff, the same thing. I do unlock those because I do use it quite a bit. Sometimes I'll use it when I'm using dual wield. I'll just throw Resto Staff on the back bar and throw some Resto Staff skills like Quick Siphon, so we have an easier way of getting lifesteal on enemies than using the Undaunted. Sanguine Altar, even though this is pretty quick to cast, it still takes some time to cast it. But yeah, unlock the skills that you want to use. On to armor though, light armor, I always unlock the top 3 for this because I do wear 1 piece of light, and I can take advantage of like the evocation passive, and I can take advantage of spell warding. When it comes to medium armor, since this is a medium armor build, I do unlock all the passives and the active ability. Heavy armor, same thing, I unlock what I need from it. The reason I don't unlock the bottom 2 here is because you have to have 5 pieces of armor equipped. Same thing with the light. On the medium, there's only 1, and that's the agility one that you can't use the benefit from. Alright, moving on to world skills. You can be a werewolf with this. Gonna let you know now. Or a vampire. Vampire, if you're gonna be a vampire, I would suggest Dark Elf. Just trust me on that. Soul Magic, I do unlock the Soul Magic abilities and all the passives because you never know. Like, I sometimes like using this on the back bar for DPS. It adds with the bow. It's kind of nice. Fighters Guild, always unlock the abilities and passives. Same with Mages Guild and Psijic Order. The reason why is, again, you never know. Like, I might want to swap out some of my abilities. Like, on the front bar, I might drop Blood Craze for Elemental Weapon and keep Bloodthirsty and the Shrouded Daggers, and then still use this and Infecture Flies, because this is going to give me a way of applying Burning, Concussed, and Shield status effects to the enemies. Yes, it does a little bit less damage than this does, a lot, but it still helps when it coming to applying those things. And then onto Undaunted, I always unlock all of this because you never know when you're going to need a synergy depending on what role you're playing. Like if I'm playing a tank, I might use Inner Rage along with Sword and Shield. This way I can use Inner Rage to give my stamina DPS a synergy to activate. It does do magic damage. It does do magic damage to nearby enemies. So it does magic damage and it does damage to the enemy over so many seconds. It's pretty nice, and other enemies. So I do like using this. If I'm playing solo, I like to use Bone Surge, so I have a damage shield that absorbs damage. It is only 34% of my max health, so if I do use it on this character with the health as low it is, I only get a 6k. But if I buff up with Vigor, and then I do it, I get a 7k shield. And as you can see, Chokethorn popped out because I'm using the Vigor. And it just healed me for 20k health. And that's how much health I have. So I do like to use a lot of different abilities in different situations, just depending really on what kind of group dynamic I'm with and what's going on. If I'm solo playing, 90% of the time this is what I run, is something like this, if I'm running around just in the open world. If I go into a dungeon and I'm having difficulty with my group, I do equip some skills and buffs and things to help the group's survivability, different things. That's the cool thing about the Druid build, is it does have all the tools necessary to do that kind of play. Now moving on to Alliance War skills, again, unlock the ones that are going to be most effective for you. Alliance War skills are in Cyrodiil or Battlegrounds. That's how you unlock these. So unless you want to play PvP, this is where you get them. So I have Aggressive Warhorn, Resolving Vigor, and Caltrops here, and on the support side I have Reviving Berry, Efficient Purge, and Mystic Guard, plus the Magic Aid. Magic Aid is only when you have one of these abilities slotted, so I might put like Reviving Barrier on the front bar when I'm playing more healer with the Thicket on the back bar, or I might even put this on the back bar with the Reviving Barrier on the front bar for when I'm playing healer. That way I can give my group Aggressive Warhorn, boost their stats, give them Major Force, that kind of thing. And then moving on to the racials, Wood Elf. The reason why I say Wood Elf is so good for this is just basically the racial passes. First, we have Acrobat. This one just decreases your fall damage. It also increases your bow experience faster. And then the Hunter's Eye increases your stealth detection radius by 3 meters, but it also increases your movement speed by 10% and your physical and spell penetration by 1500 for 6 seconds when you dodge roll. So if I'm in a dungeon and I'm getting out of an AoE something, I'll do this and then I'll heavy attack, because I get that 1600 extra penetration added to my character. So, and I always do it with my bow. Next up, we have Ifri's Endurance. This one increases your stam recovery by 258. That's why it works. The Wood Elf works so well with this setup, because you can use 1 mag recovery in the Ifri's Endurance, and you get a really decent mag and stam recovery. Now moving on to the Resistant Affliction. This increases your max stamina by 2,000 and your poison resistance by 2310. You also gain immunity to poison status effects. That's just really good overall, like, for this character. Now moving on to the crafting, medicinal use on the alchemy is really good. When using the potion, resulting effects last 30% longer. And then provisioning, gourmand and connoisseur. Both of these add 20 minutes to your eaten food and drinks. So no matter what I'm using, I can gain 20 minutes extra on those. Now, like I said, you can be any race with this. The best races will be something like Argonian is really good with this. Wood Elf is really good with this. Breton is really good with this. Oh gosh, Dark Elf. Even Orc can be really good for this because of their extra weapon damage and the fact that you can play more stamina-based healer with it than Magicka healer. So, like, certain races are going to be more effective for it in different ways, and it just really depends on how you play the character. So you can even be a high elf with it, but honestly, I just like the Wood Elf. That's just my preferred race for this and my preferred play style for it. So. Alright, now we're going to take a look at the CP. Starting with the red tree, we have 56 into Ironclad. This reduces your damage taken from direct damage attacks by 20%. We do have 18 into medium armor focus. This increases your physical resistance by 1729. We have 20 into spell shield, increasing your spell resistance by 1900. And then moving on over here, we have 31 into thick skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. And then 43 into Hardy, reducing your damage taken from physical poison disease damage by 20%. 43 into Elemental Defender, reducing your damage taken from Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 20%. And then moving on, we have 40 into Bastion, increasing the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing your healing received by 5%. Now remember, everything in this video is just suggestion on how I play the character. You can do your CP however is going to make you feel more effective. Moving on to the green tree, we have 40 into Warlord, reducing your break free cost by 16%. 16 into Sprinter, reducing your sprint cost by 10%. 16 into Bashing Focus, reducing your bash cost by 10%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 into Mooncalf, increasing your stam recovery by 10%. 43 into Arcanus, increasing your mag recovery by 10%. And then 43 into Tenacity, increasing your Magicka and stamina return of your fully charged heavy attacks by 10%. And then over here, we have 23 into Tumbling, reducing your dodge roll by 10%. 46 into Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by 17%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 into Blessed, increasing your healing done by 10%. 23 into Elfborn, increasing your critical damage and critical healing with magic abilities by 10%. 43 into Elemental Expert, increasing your Flame Frost, Shock, and magic damage by 10%. And then moving on to the middle tree here, we have 16 into Physical Weapon Expert. This increases your light and heavy attacks with all stamina weapons by 10% and werewolf form. We also have 16 into Staff Expert. This increases your destruction and rest of staff damage by 10%. And then we have, and that's just light and heavy attacks. And then Master at Arms increases your damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. The nice thing about all this is it does unlock the Reposit. So when you block a melee attack, you have a 15% chance to deal X amount of damage back to the enemy. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. So anytime that you block an attack, you can still get this benefit. Moving on over here, we have 43 into Mighty, increase your physical, poison, and disease damage by 10%. 23 into Precise Strikes, increasing your critical damage and critical healing by 22%. And then 23 into Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects, by 10%. And all this right here will give you Exploiter, so it increases your damage done to enemies with off balance. You also get Perfect Strike, which increases your weapon, critical, and opportunist. When you interrupt an enemy, your next physical damage ability used within 7 seconds deals 15% more damage. Over here, we get the Retaliation. When you block a heavy attack, your next light attack used within 7 seconds deals 30% more damage. This 30% stacks with the 10% here, the 40% here, or the 16%, and then the 10% here. All that stuff gets stacked together, and you can just smash them. And also, when you block a heavy attack, you interrupt them. So you just gain a lot of damage output just from doing that. And I just want to point that out. Alright, so now that you guys have seen the character build and all of its glory, how would you guys like to see it in use? I want to show you guys this thing in use. This thing is so much fun. So I'm going to take this to my new favorite dungeon for testing. Honestly, I don't know what I have it set for, veteran or normal. Even if I have it set for whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll just play it, because I love this character a lot. I play this character on live a lot. So, it is on normal. And excuse my cough, guys. I do have medicine for it, allergy medicine. It's just that it takes a little bit for it to kick in sometimes, and so I still have like what they call nasal drain. Yeah, it sucks. All right, so let's go in here. Let me just show you how effective this thing can be, and I'm gonna fix this because this is gonna drive me nuts. Devs, get to work. That's annoying as hell. Every time I go into a dungeon, I lose the appearance of my weapons. All right. So for this setup, I'm actually going to use what I have here, and I'm just going to use the tripods to give me the greater effect, the greater stuff. I didn't even have to kill them, they were dead already. Dun, dun, dun. Oh no, I'm out of stamina. Drink a potion. Do some heavy attacks. Do something. Don't die. Hey, that guy's gonna puke on you and you're gonna die now. Goodbye. Alright, now going into this room, this is a boss, so I am going to change out one skill so I have a little bit more survivability, otherwise this guy is going to tear me a new one. And all I'm going to do is switch this out on the front bar, that's it. And I might switch out to the Fighters Guild Beast so I can get a little bit more extra damage out of my character, but I'm just going to leave everything else as is. So, using my wonderful thing here, we're going to go ahead and throw an orb. Trap Beast, we're going to hit this guy down with some stuff. Block! Run away! I'm low on stamina. Help me, Obi-Wan. Run away! Again! Because you keep doing that stupid thing. That's what I was waiting for. Why weren't you doing that earlier, man? It's because I'm using Bone Shield. Bone Shield just eats a lot of resources. I don't like using it, but I have no option. I have no choice. I don't have a magic shield. Now, this also works in light armor, by the way. If you can get this in the opposite and you get it in light armor, it works really good that way too, because you can take advantage of that higher spell stuff, and then you can use more into stamina instead of magicka, so you can actually take advantage of the stamina side really well. The only thing is that you will take more damage that way. See, I did that perfectly. I timed that so that I would get that orb across him. Use some of this to get my health up a little bit more. Blood craze. Bigger. Damage shield. Yeah, puke on him. Alright, so he's gonna go lurking around. I'm gonna go find him. I'm gonna let him chew my soul, and he's gonna kill me. But I want him to, because I figured I've shown you enough, and you guys can pretty much guess, yes, I can solo this guy, even with this build setup. I do crappy damage, but that's because this character is more of a support character than they are a damage dealer. And I can still play them as both. A little bit of both, if I need to. Where are you hiding? Are you hiding up in the crates over here? No? What about over here? Oh, I saw you dripping from the ceiling. Is that you? No. Alright, come on, ugly. Show yourself. There he is. Eating my soul. And you know what's funny is that's what I summon, is I summon his own kind against him with this. With my hunger. Ugh. And now I'm dead. It's sad. Alright. I'm having too much fun. But that is it for the Druid character build, guys. I hope you guys like it. I do love this character. It's one of my favorites that I play on live. It's almost taken over my mains, my Meridia's Guardian character. Well, was Meridian's Guardian, is now the Lord Knight. And I will be bringing the Lord Knight out soon, and that one is going to blow your mind. For those who are fans of the Lord Knight, that thing is going to blow your mind. It is super, super awesome. So, keep your eyes open for that. But that's it for the Druid. Hope you guys like it, like I said. And if you do, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.